Good morning, everyone. We're going to be going live shortly with Midwife Amina. We're going to be doing a live Q&A, and this is one of our fortnightly sessions where you can ask us absolutely anything you want. So I'm just going to wait for Amina to come and join us. Amina's another midwife. She works with me over at NoeBaby Live, and she's going to come and join me and help answer some of your questions. So do feel free to ask us any questions you want in the chat box, and then we'll be able to answer them for you. So I'm just going to let Amina's lives. So I'm really hopeful that today she's going to be able to jump on and actually join me without any problems. Let's have a little look here. Okay. Let's see. I've got a feeling we're going to have problems with getting Amina on again today because it's not accepting it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. If I want to do an apprenticeship in midwifery, how do I apply? It depends where you're from. What part of the world are you from? And this is from Jigs. And good morning to you too. Okay, I'm going to try one more time with this, but if it doesn't connect, then we might have to abandon ship and start the live again. She's here.
Morning, morning.
We made it. I was seconds away then from ending the live and then restarting. First time.
How are you, Marley? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Can you hear the rain outside? It's peltering down.
I have been caught out in it and I'm still drying off. So.
Wonderful.
This is a particular downed look. So there we go. But it's good to see you, Marley.
Wonderful, you too. So for anyone who's, if this is the first time you've joined these lives, we try to do them every couple of weeks or so, just as an opportunity for everybody to ask a question. It can be anything. I know there's been some job related questions, baby related questions, pregnancy related questions, but yeah, we'll do our best to answer any questions that you've got at all. So just a bit of a live Q&A. So if you have a question, then do please pop them in the comments section, and we'll be on for around 20 minutes or so answering some questions for you. And I'm actually just going to drop in the comment section for anyone who's pregnant and are interested in antenatal courses. We've got a whole range of classes, live ones and on-demand ones on our website, which is nowbaby.co.uk. And we currently have £10 off of all of our courses. So I'm just going to drop that in there. I don't know if you can see, Amina, can you see any questions that have come through? Somebody did ask one actually about midwifery apprenticeships, and I asked them where they were from, but I don't know if they've replied yet.
So yeah, I can see that she's replied and said that she's from the UK, from London. And we've got a couple of other questions about from Mrs. K. Smith about planned C-section, how to manage squeamish birth partner expectations, and from Katie about when is the best time to tell the midwife team that you are pregnant.
Okay, well, should we start with the first one? Now, because I think things have changed, haven't they, in terms of like, because when I was training, it was diploma or degree, and now there's this degree apprenticeship thing. Is it UCAS that would deal with that?
I think my understanding is that I don't know a huge amount about the degree apprenticeship, so I think different trusts are running it, and I think they're starting from either they've started already, they're starting from June 2024. So if there's anyone already on this live, because I know lots and lots of midwives follow Marley already and know a bit more about the degree apprenticeship, like please share with us so that we can know about it as well.
Yeah.
But my understanding was that if it's a midwife degree apprenticeship, it's something that's done through individual trust, and you have to kind of apply to that trust, and it will be through the NHS Jobs website or NHS Track. Able to do that. But don't quote me on it. That I know I was looking for something recently and I came across some of those kind of applications about, you know, people wanting to kind of go down the midwifery degree apprenticeship. But like you, I did the diploma that was then topped up to a degree. So we're both midwives who qualified a fair while ago. So I don't know if that answers your questions. I know you've asked, is it better to do the apprenticeship or, sorry, I'm just going back to do better to do the apprenticeship or going to uni. Genuinely speaking, I don't know. I think it will depend on your individual circumstances. The apprenticeship, you're paid. It's like any apprenticeships, you're paid. You're not paid at a midwife rate, but you're paid throughout the entire duration of your training. Whereas with the degree, it's more established. It's been around for a very long time. The universities and systems are in place for that, but you have to pay the tuition fees per year for it. You don't get paid for it, so there is an NHS bursary that you get, which is around 5,000 to 6,000 a year. That is a little bit.
Oh, your sound's gone, Amina. Can anybody else hear her? Can anyone else hear? Oh, you're back. I was going to say actually, if you're on Facebook, have a look for student midwife Facebook groups, because in that way you can actually ask current students their thoughts on, you know, the best route to go down and what their experiences are like. I think I was part of a student midwife group many years ago when I was training, and I think they're really, really good because you can get kind of live, real-time experience from those who are actually in the system at the moment. So I think that'll probably be a good place to start.
Yeah. So sorry, we're not particularly helpful on that question, but hopefully there'll be someone on who follows Marley or who follows NoeBaby account that might be able to kind of signpost you a little bit more that way, and we'll do our homework for next time. So
yeah,
we read up on it a little bit.
Okay. So Mrs. K. Smith, she's planned a C-section. How to manage a squeamish birth partner's expectations. I think initially, you know, when you go in to have your baby, let the birth team know, and they'll sort of do their best to make sure that, you know, your birth partner doesn't see anything that they don't want to see. But in general, they usually have a screen up. Your birth partner will be sitting very, very close to you, so they won't, unless they stand up and go out of their way to look. They won't see anything. There'll be nothing there for them to see. I think looking at childbirth on TV, cesareans, and even vaginal births, it can really change our perception on how things are. And often it's not like that at all. You know, we have these visions of blood and waters and all sorts of things all over the place. And it's not always like that. So I think the best thing to do is probably to be open and honest with the birth team, and to get your birth partner to sort of document what their main concerns are, so that you can then relay that information on. But in general, they won't necessarily see anything they don't want to see. You know, like I said, unless they kind of go out of their way, because they do have the screens there. Things like the placenta and that's all kind of taken away. And when the baby's born, you'll both be so kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
In the baby.
Yeah, in order for the baby, and looking at the baby, and your birth partner probably be making sure you're okay as well, to even notice what's going on in the rest of the room. It's like with anything. Like, even if you go in to have any kind of procedure, anything that you've never done before, there's always that kind of anxiety and that anticipation. You know, what's going to happen? What's it going to be like? You know what I mean? I don't know whether it's worthwhile looking on YouTube to see if there's any videos, not necessarily of the actual procedure, but just of a couple in the room, so you can see how the layout is. So, you know, and that might help your birth partner a little bit. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Amina.
I was going to add that actually Marley has recorded an amazing course on, you know, if you're having birth by C-section. Actually, often the things, like you say, what we anticipate are going to make us, you know, we're scared of, is because we just don't know what's going to happen. And actually, knowledge and power, and in the whole kind of birthing thing, it's that I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared that I'm going to see this and I'm going to react that way. And actually, when you kind of understand what's happening, what the process is like, that can be really, really helpful. That's why we're antenatal educators. That's why we, do what we do in that way, because we know that that takes away a lot of that fear, a lot of that squeamishness as well. So, have a look into just learning more about what happens during with your partner, and for your partner to be very present in that, about what happens during a C-section, because often people think, like you say, you're going to be there on a table, everything's going to be open, and you're going to be having to watch an operation happening. Well, actually, birth by C-section happens within the first 5 to 10 minutes. So you're going to be holding your baby. The rest of the operation, whether it's 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, is actually going to be behind a screen with, mum being sutured back up together, the operation being done, and you're going to be with your baby, spending all of that time in that way. So I think just having a look at the on-demand course we have on C-section is really helpful, because it doesn't show anything scary, and in that way, it's just understanding what you can do, and also for your partner to also explore what they can do to focus on in supporting you. So if they've got something to focus on, then they're not worrying about what's happening behind that screen. If they're there supporting you and being there for you, can be really helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the course does go through step by step. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because some people want to know, if they've got some sort of, any kind of anxiety with these kinds of things, they want to know what's going to happen, what to expect. And other people just don't want to know. But I do think it's good to have some sort of an idea as to what to expect, so that if anything does happen, you're like, oh, well, I learned about that. I heard that meant, that was going to happen. So, yes, so do check that out if you feel that it will be useful. Katie Ab, when is the best time to tell the midwife team that you're pregnant? Well, I mean, the booking in appointment usually happens around 8 weeks or so, 8 to 10 weeks. So, I mean, most sources will say to advise, let a healthcare professional know when you find out that you're pregnant, so when you get that positive test. And I think most maternity trusts or NHS trusts are taking self-referrals now. So you go along to the website, to the maternity section, and then you fill out a self-referral form, and then you give them your last period date, or if you've had assisted conception, your embryo transfer date, and then they work out your estimated due date. It's always an estimation, and then based on that, they'll then send you a letter and invite you in for an initial appointment. So whenever you find out you're pregnant is probably the best time to get in touch and with the team and let them know.
And as like Marley says, lots of hospitals will have a self-referral if there isn't one. So first of all, you probably need to figure out where you would like to have your baby, which feels like a big decision that you kind of have to make without knowing very much about it. And, I always say to people, you have to kind of weigh it up with lots of different factors. How convenient is it for you to get there? Remembering that you're going to need to attend certain amounts of appointments there. So can you get there easily and back? How are you going to feel traveling to a hospital a bit further away when you're heavily pregnant towards the end of your pregnancy or in labour? And as we both know, sometimes in labour people have to go back and forth a little bit. So often your local hospital is probably the best option, unless there's a specific reason you want to go somewhere else. But you are entitled to choose to a certain degree which hospital you would like to have your baby at, and have a look on their website, look for maternity self-referral booking form. If it doesn't exist, contact your GP, because your GP will then need to do the referral. And that can be as early as, I've peed on a sick and I know I'm pregnant, I'm going to let my GP know, or I'm going to go on and do that self-referral. And as Marley has said, the maternity unit will work out, usually bookings, ideally we want bookings to happen between around 8 and 9 weeks. So relatively early on in the pregnancy, early enough to be able to look at lots of different things that we need to look at to determine your care pathway in pregnancy. if you have an underlying health condition, if you are on certain medications, if you have been advised that, you know, if you become pregnant, you need to get help straight away, then obviously write all of that information down in the self-referral form, or contact your GP and say, can you make sure that this referral goes through, and they know that I'm on, you know, certain medication, whether it's for epilepsy or whether it's for thyroxine, all of those kind of things, because you will need specialist care a little bit earlier on in pregnancy, or if you've had a previous pregnancy that has been a bit more complicated, you know, a premature birth, all of those kind of things. So just getting in touch as early as possible. But if you think that you need to, you know, that actually I need to be seen in this pregnancy earlier than even 8 weeks, and get in touch with your GP is probably the quickest way of being able to get that information to the maternity unit.
And we have a Just Pregnant course. Is the Just Pregnant course a free course? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But we have so we have a Just Pregnant course. So for anyone who's just found out that they're expecting a baby, and it includes obviously what me and Amina have told you, but a lot more as well. So do go over to the website, and you can just sign up to that, and it's instantly accessible. And that will kind of help to give you a bit of direction as well. So that's NoeBaby.co.uk. Okay. Paris asks, what's the main? It's an interesting one. What's the main reasoning for giving vitamin K straight after birth? What can happen when you don't get it for your baby? There's actually a lot of controversy around vitamin K, and with any kind of injections for babies. It's one of those things that, you know, you've got lots of people shouting for it, and some people shouting against it. But ultimately, vitamin K, babies are don't produce lots of vitamin K when they're born, and it's something that helps the blood to clot. So what they noticed many years ago, I think probably around the 40s and 50s, was that a lot of babies were sadly dying of hemorrhagic disease of the newborn because of low vitamin K levels. Now, when they started routinely offering this this injection to babies, the level of these deaths dropped significantly. So that is purely the reason why it's offered. And I always say offered because nothing is mandatory at all. It's something that we have to you have to give consent for. And vitamin K can be given either via injection as one dose, or it can be given. Is it still being given orally? Let me just check first before I go saying that. Yeah, or orally, but it's over 2 or 3 doses, isn't it? Over a period of a couple of weeks, is it?
It's
2
so
weeks.
orally. It's so yeah. Injection, it's one dose relatively soon after birth. Orally, it's given at birth, then a couple of weeks in, and then it depends on if baby is breastfeeding or bottle feeding, because if baby is formula fed, then they won't need the 3rd dose. But if baby is breastfeeding, then they will need a 3rd dose as well. So it does vary depending on, you know, what your baby's feeding is like and how you're choosing to feed your baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's ultimately the reason why it's routinely offered here and in many other countries as well.
Yeah. I think that the only bit that I would add to that is people often ask, you know, what can I, you know, why does my baby need vitamin K? And it's because they're born with very little vitamin K, and things like breast milk don't have. They have small amounts of vitamin K, but actually not enough to bring your baby's store levels up. So that's why vitamin K is given in those early stages, as Marley said, to protect them from that hemolytic disease of the newborn in that. Say, one of the questions I often get asked by people is like, can I eat something to build up my baby's vitamin K store? And actually you can't, because it's very hard for it to pass through. In adults, we get it through, you know, our food, like leafy green vegetables and, you know, olive oils and all of those kind of things. But for babies, it's really hard to get it into them in that way. If you choose not to have it, if you make a decision that actually, you know, I don't want my baby of having it, then the option is not to have it. There isn't an alternative that is given. It can be either given by injection or by mouth, but if you choose not to have it, the midwife will then explain to you, you know, just certain things that you need to be aware of, looking out for, you know, things that you might need to get help with. But the option is to kind of have it or not have it, rather than, if you don't have the vitamin K injection, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z instead.
Yeah, there is an alternative. Yeah. Thanks, Amina.
Okay.
Okay. Mantinatal. Oh, hi. If you're still on here. Love what you guys do. What are your thoughts or what are your views on supporting birth partners and new dads to be ready to step up and support mum? They deserve nothing less. Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. You know, we need to be supporting, both parents, as part of this process. And I think it's over the years, I've kind of experienced scenarios where even personally, when I've gone in when I've had babies, and the conversations always seems to be directed towards me, and what's happening. And ultimately, as the person having the baby, you're the one that's going to be able to. You're the only person that can consent to investigations and treatments and interventions and things like that. But I think it's nice when the health professional that's talking to you is talking to you as a whole, explaining to dads what's going to be happening, and asking for their thoughts and their views and their opinions, because I think a lot of parents, a lot of dads will hold things in because perhaps they feel like they're not as much of a part of it as the mum is, because the mum is the one that's carrying the baby, So, I mean, I don't know about everybody else's practice, but especially when I'm doing antenatal appointments and things like that, I'll always involve the whole family, because everyone needs to be a part of it. And also, I think when we're thinking about dads, if we have a dad that isn't involved in the process, and doesn't feel supported as well, then they're not going to be the best that they can be for their baby or their partner, are they?
Yeah.
No, completely.
No, completely agree with that. I think the other thing that I would add is that actually sometimes there's a lot of focus on labour and birth, understandably, and what partners can do to support people in labour and birth kind of thing. Actually, that's the beginning of it. The support you need carries on. It's about how can partners be there afterwards, how they can bond with baby, about skin to skin with baby. We don't talk enough about that as well. We talk enough about skin to skin with mum, but we don't talk enough about skin to skin with dads in those early few days afterwards when the baby's crying, and how to soothe baby, and actually really exploring all of that as well, because like you say, it's a partnership. You're there together, and these are all things that will bring you closer together as a family unit now, but also bonding with baby as well. And how you, by supporting mum, you're I always kind of say, if mum is looked after, baby will be looked after. So let's focus on mum, because lots of people will go, what can I do to help with baby? And you go, actually, if we're looking after mum, who's well fed, who's well looked after, is able to rest, is, able to just feel emotionally supported, then they're going to be able to look after baby absolutely fine. So if we focus on the mum, it's going to be okay. But also partners in that point as well. That doesn't mean that your emotions and how you're feeling doesn't come into it. It all does. But actually working together as a unit in that way after baby has been born is just as important as preparing for the labour and birth, which is a huge event, but it's one day or 2 days. The day afterwards is where, you both of us have had lots of babies, and I think it's that, after the big event, you're there kind of going, where's everyone gone now? And you're kind of like, oh, it's just me left holding baby. So just being aware of that as well. But no, brilliant question.
And I always say as well, to dads, if they have any concerns or worries or anything, they can call as well. Like, in those early postnatal days, if they have any worries or anything, they can still call and speak to a midwife and speak to somebody. They don't have to feel that it's just the mum that's got to make the phone call. They are. We're more than happy to speak to both parents about anything that's concerning them. And just because it's something that's not happening to him physically doesn't mean he doesn't get to call and voice his concerns.
So I think the next question is from Masters Katie saying, I've had cervical funneling with my twin pregnancy from 22 weeks. I'm so sorry to hear that. Got to 35+3, which is great. Is cervical funneling likely to happen again if I was to have another pregnancy? So for anyone else who doesn't know what that is, funneling is a term that's kind of used when the cervix, so the top of the cervix, if you think of the cervix like that, it's the top part of it that's attached to the uterus, starts to dilate a little bit and it becomes like a funnel shape, essentially. Am I explaining it right? I hope.
Yeah.
But it essentially does that. And it starts happening
From the inside.
Yeah, from the inside it starts to do that. So you can't see it, but that's what we're talking about when talking. And it's usually picked up on scans that we can see that funneling happening. If it's happening as early as 22 weeks, we start thinking about things like preterm birth, etc., happening. So for Katie, in your last in your pregnancy, in your last twin pregnancy, where I think cervical funneling does tend to happen because there's two babies, two amniotic sacs, two placentas, etc. So there's a lot more pressure happening. If it had happened in your twin pregnancy, I think in your next pregnancy, because that's the question you're asking, you have a slightly increased risk of it happening again, but you will be monitored much more closely. So in your next pregnancy, right from the beginning, that should be noted that you had a twin pregnancy, that the funneling happened at 22 weeks. And what you should be offered is to be on a preterm birth care pathway. So either under a specialist clinic, if your hospital has one for premature birth, which is called the preterm birth clinic, where they will see you to have early scans to look at what's happening with your cervix. If there is a specialist clinic, you should be on a pathway where again they're doing what we call cervical measurements to see what's happening with the cervix, and then determining whether you need any preventative treatment like a stitch being put in, a cerclage being put in to stop that happening in the future, or whether it's just something that needs to be very closely monitored. But Marley has had the twin pregnancy herself, so I don't know what you want to add to that.
I didn't. It wasn't the same sort of scenario, but yeah, I mean, I had babies earlier. I had babies at 34 weeks, and they're big 6 foot 17-year-olds now. So, so they're all happy. But yeah, it can be very nerve-wracking, especially when you're carrying two. Whether it will happen in another pregnancy or not, who knows? I mean, it could just be that it's you are higher risk with twins of that happening anyway. If you were to have a singleton again, it might not. But your obstetric doctor can kind of guide you and support you with that. All right, I think. I don't think we've got any time for any more questions, but like we always do, so we do this every couple of weeks, and we always say, anybody's got any questions that we didn't get around to answering, I'm going to be posting this video to my page, so please do feel free to pop your questions on the video, and we will have a look, and if we'll get a chance, we'll answer them for you. And don't forget about the £10 discount for all of our courses. It will be running for a little bit longer. Use the code Midwife Marley 24. I have put it in the comments and I'll put it on the video as well. And that's over at NoeBaby.co.uk. So there are paid and there are free courses as well. So just have a little look at those. And we're back again next week, aren't we? Because we didn't do last week.
Yes.
So we're back next week. So we'll be back again next Friday around 11 a.m. to answer some more of your questions. So thank you very much, Amina, and thanks for everyone for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.